Hi everybody and welcome back to the Keto Gaia Kitchen. Thank you so much for joining me here today. In today's video I want to talk about the topic of snacking. It's a topic that I think really divides people because some people just see it as a normal way of life and other people see it as something that really has no place in a healthy eating regime. And I think I probably fall into the latter of those two groups. Thinking back to when I wanted to change my health and weight, snacking was something that I knew I had to give up really because it was really undermining my attempts for successful and sustainable weight loss. But I found it very difficult to give up. I know that's exactly where a lot of people find themselves, and that's why I wanted to do a video on this topic. So snacking is eating between meals, eating between main meals, eating at a time when we're not going to be sitting down to a main meal, and that's what I would call snacking. Snacking can really be divided up into discussions about when we snack, why we snack, and the foods we choose to snack on, and these all have relevance when it comes to giving up snacking. Do meal times need to be structured? In my opinion, in a modern world, yes, they definitely do. Certainly in our past, our ancestors were more likely to have been both structured and opportunistic feeders. And so doing both, having the opportunistic feeding and also having the structured hunting and the more organised group would have given our ancestors the very best opportunity to get as much food as possible. Being an opportunistic feeder, well, it's in our DNA. In today's modern world, we are surrounded by feeding opportunities every day, 24/7. We have so much food to hand and we're able to constantly graze throughout the day. However, there is one major drawback to this situation, and that's modern food. And here I'm talking about ultra-processed foods, which is always the one that is most readily available and also the one that is void of nutrients. It used to be we didn't have to be that disciplined around food because scarcity meant that we lived under a forced discipline of under-eating with occasional overfeeding. So now, in today's world, we've got the same DNA as our ancestors, but our situation has changed. Now we have no discipline. We are urged at every opportunity by clever marketeers to eat more junk. Opportunistic eating has given way to junk food snacking, and we have sleepwalked into this situation. The important thing is recognising the fact that the snacking is happening and, to be honest with you, getting the hell out of there. Yes, the way that modern food is produced creates food addictions, which doesn't support our good health or attempts to lose weight. But what it does support is a whole enterprise of food manufacturers who have built multi-million-pound companies based on our instinctive nature to be opportunistic feeders, as well as our vulnerability around certain ultra-processed food ingredients. So we find ourselves on the one hand at the mercy of our DNA, our intuitive instinct to eat easy to come by food, and on the other hand we're caught in the cycle of addictions and cravings built on that natural instinct. The only way to get out of this situation is to impose our own disciplined eating, one that is structured enough to ensure that we're each able to keep on the right track. The structure needs to stay in place until we've weaned ourselves off the modern Western diet, the ultra-processed foods and the addictions and triggers. So is it doable? Is it doable to stop that snacking, to give that up? Well, I believe it is, as long as the right conditions are in place. The problem with ultra-processed foods is the body doesn't register it as being nutrition, and so is either constantly looking for more food in order to get the nutrients it needs, or it becomes addicted to the reward sensations that are created in the brain from eating the high concentrations of sugar, salt and fat found specifically in those combinations in highly processed foods. As I've noted in my last video on mindful eating, it's almost impossible to overfeed on protein because the body has its own innate system of registering when enough nutrient has been eaten. Now I want to go a bit deeper into what we can do and how we can reframe our ideas around snacking to move towards a better way of eating. If you're snacking because you're genuinely hungry between meals, then an assessment of what you're eating at meal times is necessary. Getting enough protein and fat will keep you feeling full between meals. Fat is very satiating and will help to fuel the body in a positive and sustainable way between meals. Carbohydrates leave a sense of emptiness, and the energy burnt from carbs is short-lasting, and so more sugar is needed to refuel, and this becomes a vicious cycle. If you're snacking because you're feeding an addiction to a particular ingredient, then that type of snacking is not going to support good health and weight loss. In this case, addressing the root cause of the addiction, the ultra-processed foods, is necessary. And the best thing to do in that situation is to replace the junk food with real food. Anybody who is coming off an addiction of any kind is going to have certain times when it's a bit of a struggle, and it's important to see those as learning opportunities and not reasons to throw in the towel. If you're snacking in response to a craving, an emotional or a behavioural craving, then food isn't the answer, because food in those circumstances becomes a sticking plaster for intense feelings that remain unaddressed or out of a bad habit formed around food. Food addiction needs a totally different strategy to cravings based on emotional or habitual triggers. That snacking between meals it's really part of a bigger picture of the food choices. Logging your food allows you to see exactly what you're eating, not from a judgmental point of view, but simply from knowledge is power. And if you know that you are snacking in the afternoon or whatever time of the day, once you know that, you can start to put in place ways to change. Accept that change takes time and it's not linear. You'll have slip-ups, and it's important to see these as a way to better understand your eating habits and your relationship with food, which I can tell you for 9.9 out of 10 people, They have a broken relationship with food, and it takes time to heal that. Until we've changed our eating patterns to nutrient rich and junk poor, then we're working towards something better, something that is really going to help us to support and move us along towards the path of better metabolic health. And remember that a slip up that is made within the context of attempting to change is a signal that the intention is correct. It's the strategy that needs changing. And whilst it might take a few attempts, it's very doable. Focus on high nutrition at meal times. Real food is the starting point. Stopping snacking is achievable for everybody. You'll need discipline and a change of mindset to get you there, together with the right food at meal times. And it's very important to understand that any slip-ups it's not a failure, it's an opportunity to learn. And it's about having self-compassion and understanding that we're not perfect all of the time, and that we are on a journey to make things better. So until next time, thanks so much for joining me here in the Keto Gaia kitchen. Take care and bye for now.